I'm sorry, else. You don't. He just
Go back here. Hey.
You change your mind? Yep.
How you doing? Good, how you doing? Good, thank you. How are you, sir? Good.
There you go. Well, apparently those are the only places you can shit. That's funny, isn't it? Some room for one more person, but then when he goes,
Test, 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 test. Test, test. Did good, sir? Yeah? Keep busy? Yeah.
but I did that. Do you feel comfortable knowing nothing about the performance of that? I'd also want to know how Tom looked at it, what he thought, but we didn't get to hear it.
Okay, Joel, are you ready? Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to the council meeting of July 14th, 2020. I'm going to explain just for a moment what the protocol will be for tonight. In the order for face coverings, we did make some provisions for separate policies for how court is operated and how council is operated. So tonight, while council members are at their seats and facing forward, they are at a sufficient distance and they will be allowed to remove their mask to speak. Anybody in the audience who does come up to speak for public comments or makes any presentations will be also allowed to remove their mask while they speak, and we ask that you put that mask back on when you return to your seat and are seated. Okay, that being the case, we have a special guest tonight. Our city attorney could not be here, so we have Avery Jackson filling in. Thank you. And as has been the custom since I became mayor, we have a special guest who will give the invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I want to recognize those two individuals first, and then we will move forward. So giving the invocation tonight will be Pastor Steve Swafford. He's in the audience. And Pastor Steve Swafford grew up in Cedartown, Georgia. He graduated from Cedartown High School in 1972. He answered the call to preach as a junior in high school and began pastoring a month later in June of 1971. After graduation, he went to Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama, where he received a Master of Divinity degree with a minor in history. In July of 1974, that's the year I was born, he enrolled at Luther Rice Seminary in Jacksonville, Florida, where he finished a doctor's degree in theology. Pastor Swafford married Melinda Shaw, also from Cedartown, in 1976. They have 3 children, all who graduated from Villa Rica High School. In his 49 years of the ministry, Pastor Swafford has pastored churches in Georgia and Alabama and is presently pastor of Fullerville Baptist Church in Villa Rica, where he has served for the past 24 years. Thank you, sir, for being here. In just a moment, I'll ask you to come up and give the invocation. And then followed by that, we have Mr. Donald McCain with us tonight. Donald McCain has been married to Stephanie Wright McCain for 4 years and has 1 son, Melson, who is married with 2 children. He is retired and a member of Mount Prospect Baptist Church, where he is a volunteer in the community food bank and sings in the male chorus at the church. Mr. McCain received a certificate of honor for his honorable service in the United States Marine Corps as a Lance Corporal. He is also the brother of our distinguished councilwoman, Ms. Shirley Marchman. So if everyone would rise, Pastor, would you come up to the podium and lead us in the invocation? And then I will ask Mr. McCain to come forward.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day that you have given us. And Father, we're reminded of what David the psalmist said, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all of his benefits." And Father, we come to you today thanking you for life and for health and for strength. Thanking you, dear Lord, for all of your benefits, all of your blessings. Everything that we have is because of you, and we thank you for that. Lord, we come right now, especially on behalf of this council meeting tonight. Heavenly Father, we pray that you'd bless our mayor, bless our councilmen, bless each one that takes part in public discussion here tonight. We ask you, dear Lord, for wisdom and, Father, for leadership and for understanding for all of us. And, Lord, most of all, through that wisdom, we ask for some common sense as well. We ask you, dear Lord, that you bless our our city as a whole, every aspect, every department. Father, we thank you for our police department, our chief. And Lord, we pray that you protect them in these uncertain times and these scary times as well. We ask you, dear Lord, that you just go with us through the rest of this day. Lord, help us to be faithful to you and serving you. And Lord, giving you the honor and the praise for all of the benefits that you have sent our way. And Father, for what you do for us, we'll be careful to give you the praise for it, because I ask this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Mr. McCain, if you would come forward to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir.
Good afternoon. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. You all may be seated. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, let's see what we have next. Ceremonial presentation. So earlier tonight we did some pictures, and now we will recognize employee anniversaries. And first up will be Miss Tara Ivy, in the Recreation Department for 20 years of service. I will ask Mr. Tom Barber to present this and to recognize Miss Ivy.
For those of you that were here last time, you know that we didn't get to do this, so this is a meeting late. So not everybody here knows Tara, right? A lot of you do, but not everybody. I've observed in 3 years that Tara does not exactly chase the limelight, shall we say, right? This is not exactly her thing, but she is the glue of our recreation department. Everybody see that? She has worked 20 years. Can you imagine? 20 years in the rec department. So you've had how many rec directors?
2.
3?
Yeah.
Not
3.
tiny, barely tiny.
Barely tiny.
Then the mayor, and then Vicki. 20 years. I can't imagine. But what she has done in that time is to hold that operation together through changes in philosophy, through good and bad economic times, multiple mayors, all without any fanfare, not coming here and making a big splash about what's going on, but getting that job done. And I can't tell you, as a city manager, what that's worth to the organization or to the department. So 20-year certificate, and let's all give Tara a hand for her service. You want to say something? Oh, come on.
All right, thank you, Tara. Hold on to that. We're going to give it to Mike, to the chief.
Put it on the podium.
Next up is presentation by the chief for Jason Miller for 20 years of service.
So Jason was here when I got here. I came almost 15 years ago, and Jason was with us then, and he's, like the mayor said, he's been with us 20 years. Jason's a soldier, and I mean that in the best way you can say it. Jason was a Marine. Jason is been a cop for a long time, and he's one of those guys that you never have to worry about. You just say, hey, Jason, I need this, buddy, it gets done. And he's just always been that way. He's always been straight up. I don't ever have to worry about him fussing about this or complaining about that. He does his job. And we appreciate him and what he's done. 20 years in Villa Rica is a long time, and especially to be a police officer in today's time, it takes a lot. And we appreciate him, his wife Jennifer, and all that they do for our department. So congratulations, Jason. Can I get that?
That's Jason. Thank you, Jason. Okay, go ahead. Give him. Jason's been here for a long time, and I appreciate all the work you've done, and I've seen him over the years as well, even though I haven't been here that long. Okay, so next up is a gentleman who needs no introduction. He is probably one of the most famous walkers in town, along with the chief, Scott Parker, who has been with us for 25 years. Scott, come forward and let the chief recognize you.
So, like he said, everybody knows Scott. Scott's been here. He was here when I came, and he's been an integral part of me being successful. He and a couple others, Hunter and Shaddix, are like my right-hand folks. If we make a decision, it's a group decision, and we all bring different aspects to the job, and we discuss it as a group. And the one thing about Scott is I always know he's going to shoot straight with me. He's not going to tell me, he's not going to tell me what I need to hear. He's going to tell me the truth. He's going to tell me what really needs to be done, and I appreciate that in him because I know who he is all the time. I appreciate the job he does, how hard he works for the department. 25 years is an outstanding accomplishment. You should be very proud of that. We're proud you're a part of our department. We're proud of all you do for us, and we appreciate it. And his kids are here, Zoe and Maddie, and they're kind of proud of him, they said. But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Well, Chief, you can't go too far because you're up again. It's now time for you to present the dedication of the annual police report.
So we do this every year. This is our annual report that we do for the department. I started this when I came, and every year we dedicate it to somebody special. And we decide this usually the first of the year. And this year we were talking about it, trying to decide who to dedicate it to. And the person that we're dedicating it to has no idea. Most of the people here don't know. Just our department. But like I said, this was something that we decided a long time ago, and I want you to understand what this person means to us in the police department, what this person means to the city, all the way around the city, how well known this person is. I like watching y'all look around trying to figure out who it is. But it's a huge honor for us to be able to do this. So tonight we're going to recognize Miss Shirley Marchman as our dedication. You had no idea. Why do you think we had this gentleman here tonight? And this gentleman here tonight? Miss Marchman's husband's here, Willie, and we appreciate Mr. Willie. But Miss Marchman, this year the Villa Rica Police Department would like to dedicate our annual report to Mrs. Shirley Marchman. Miss Shirley, as she is affectionately known, is dedicated to the cities and the employees of the city, and is a great proponent of the police department. Ms. Shirley McCain Marchman was the first African-American female elected to the city council in 1990 and has served continuously to the present, minus 4 years that she gave up to run for mayor. She followed in her father's footsteps, as he was the first African-American to serve on the council from '79 until his death in 1986. She has also served as the mayor pro tem for 6 years. Miss Shirley always stands out in a crowd with her smile and gentle, loving nature. We at the Villa Rica Police Department wanted to know that her presence, work, and dedication are appreciated with helping us reach our targets and goals. Miss Shirley is one that will always stand up for what she believes and supports our officers and employees like we're one of hers. Thank you, Miss Shirley. You want to get a picture with me?
No, I did, and when I asked him, he said, I got to go where you going, but he never told, I thought he did install it.
All right, congratulations.
These is really my babies. I love them. Anything they want, I'll stick my finger up if it's a pencil or whatever. They know they can depend on me to go for whatever.
Ask for some liquor.
Thank you, officer.
See, next time you are asking the question whether I can keep a secret or not, now you know. She really didn't know. Okay, now that we've got those out of the way, let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. So, Council, you have the agenda before you. We are going to make a slight change to F, Community Development. We will not consider the adoption of the zoning map tonight. However, we will have the public hearing. So we will strike F1B and C tonight. Are there any other changes by any other council member? If not, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended and a second. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, with that, we now have an agenda and we will move forward to council updates. I am going to take just a moment to talk about these face coverings, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, and then I'm going to recognize the council if anybody has any comments. But the order itself lays out the best rationale that we have, and I'm just going to read from the CDC. That is really the only place I take information from. I know that there are agendas somewhere. They are not mine. Mine is simply about protecting the employees in the city of Villa Rica, and that is a special duty that we have here. And while this may not be 100% effective, it may not be 50% effective, I don't know. What I do know is it seems to be the only thing that has any chance of slowing the spread of this virus, and that's why we're doing this. With that said, I'm going to just read this paragraph from the CDC, and then I'll allow for council updates. Why it is important to wear a face cloth covering. This is directly from the CDC's website. Cloth face coverings may help prevent people who have COVID-19 from spreading the virus to others. Wearing a cloth face covering will help protect people around you, including those at higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19 and workers who frequently come into contact with other people. Cloth face coverings are most likely to reduce the spread of COVID-19 when they are widely used by people in public settings. The spread of COVID-19 can be reduced when cloth face coverings are used along with other preventative measures, including social distancing, frequent hand washing, and cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. That didn't say it was perfect. That didn't say it was 100% guaranteed. It said it may. And there are no other mays that I'm aware of. That being said, do any council members have any updates tonight? Mr. Young.
As I stated during the July 9th City Council work session, I am strongly opposed to the mayor's executive order that became effective Monday, July 13th. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I consider the mayor a personal friend, and I believe he is doing a great job leading Villa Rica during difficult times. We very often agree on a wide range of subjects pertinent to the current and future well-being of Villa Rica. I will also state that I understand the rationale and the intent of the mayor's executive order and applaud his desire to protect city employees. I just disagree with the methodology chosen. In support of my position, I have provided the mayor and city council members with informational articles from a variety of sources revealing the faulty premise of face mask science. I hope everyone remembers in March and April, Dr. Fauci, the Surgeon General, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Centers for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization all stated that masks would not protect you and did not recommend wearing masks for individuals without symptoms unless they were caregivers to those infected. Then the experts changed their tune. Now they highly recommend masks to everyone. Why? What happened? Did the facts that we have known for the last 10 years about respirators and masks change? No. Did the facts about the transmission of viruses change from what we have known? Remember, the common cold is also a coronavirus, and influenza has been with us for decades. No change. So what did change? The politics, not the science. And then Dr. Fauci and the Surgeon General tried to explain their flip-flop by saying that their original statements were made to ensure that masks were available to medical personnel. Really? So a given class of individuals were more worthy of protection than a normal guy like me. Really? The explanation does not pass the smell test. The experts have either lied to us or been mistaken over and over. We should trust them now based on their record. I am present here tonight with a mask on, or will be shortly. I have no desire for my disagreement with the mayor to cause a spectacle or to feed the next news story. I am here because the city has important business to conduct, and my absence would be a failure of my responsibility to discharge my responsibilities to the citizens in my ward that want Villa Rica to be the city they would like it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any other council members?
Not so much an update, but just another personal thank you. This must be the anniversary night of all the really long-time veterans. Tara, 20 years, what can we say? And Officer Miller, Semper Fi. Scott Parker, 25 years. Wow. Thank you. Thank you from me.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Montahan.
I just want to say, glad to see everybody's back again. We're getting back to normal, though adjusted.
It is a new adjusted normal. Anyone else? Mr. Carter, Ms. Marchman? Okay. So, Mr. Young, I want to thank you for those comments. As I said at the work session, I appreciate varying views, and I appreciate that you and I are friends, and we all on this panel are friends. And we all do work together. We do have disagreements from time to time, but that's to be expected. We all don't have the same histories and the same backgrounds. We're not all informed in the same way. That's not just on this matter. It's on a host of matters that come before the city. So, sir, I want you to know that I appreciate the comments you made, and I respect your view as well. Okay, that will take us to the public comment section. Thank you, ma'am. So let me just read out here for just a moment. This is a new format that we have for public comments, and I'm just going to read the because sometimes we've had some situations that were not ideal here, so we've changed the comments that I'll make before we introduce these folks. Please keep your comments on a professional level. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. If you deviate from this protocol, you will receive a warning. If you deviate a second time, you'll be asked to leave. Only one person speaks at a time, and I will call your name and ask you to come up to the podium, and if you choose to remove your mask to speak, that's perfectly fine. Just ask that you put it back on when you go back to your seat. Mr. Randy Simpkins. Hello, sir. Would you please state your address for us, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
My name is Randy Simpkins. I reside at 150 Gold Dust Trail in Carrollton, Georgia. I was here originally. I have interest in a few items on the consent agenda, but I saw the public comment sheet and I thought I would take a minute just to introduce myself. And I just recently bought a piece of property here for the first time, so I'm excited to be part of this community. It's over in the Fullerville area at 627 Rockmart Road. You may recognize it by that big water tower. It's an old building. So we're excited about being partners, and I've been doing some research on your comprehensive land use plans and looking at some of the historical recreational type directions that you're going. So I just wanted you to know I'm glad to be a neighbor, I'm glad to be in this community, and I look forward to working with the mayor and council members in any way.
Well, thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert Walker. Hello, sir.
Hi, Mayor.
Please state your address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
And I am actually wanting to speak on the public hearing for the zoning and zoning map. And
That there'll be an opportunity for that a little later if you don't want to speak right now.
If I will have
Either
an
way,
opportunity, then I will.
you will.
sit
We will
down
still
and-
do that.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank
Thank you. Joel Morris.
Mayor, I'm also here for that.
Good to see you, Joel. I haven't seen you in a long time. I didn't recognize you with the mask on. Okay, Dennis Brown. Hello, sir.
Hey, Gil, how you doing?
This is one of those we're glad to see back. We haven't seen a lot of our public. In a
And
few
I don't have a
months.
gripe. That
No
makes it
gripe?
even better.
That's even better.
Dennis Brown, 2717 Mariner Way, here in Villa Rica. No, it's not a gripe in view of Tom's glowing comments, which I agree with about Tara. It also seems maybe a little bit counterproductive, but nevertheless, my concern is with the fall recreation program and also with the vacant department head of the recreation department.
Yes, sir.
And I'm concerned for a variety of reasons. First, because of the source of information that you're going to use to make a decision on the fall recreation program. And second, because of the image of the city as a good place for young families to live without that department head position. First, no question that you as mayor and the council should make the decision about whether or not it's in the best interest of our citizens and youth to allow a schedule of fall recreation activity programs based on health and safety reasons. I only ask that a decision be made on the basis of Villa Rica statistics and not that of the State of Georgia High School Athletic Association or the state. Both of the latter reflect statewide concerns, and frankly, I don't think our neighbors residing in Villa Rica should have decisions on their activity made because of what's going on in Savannah or Macon or Albany or Dalton for that matter. Second, two major reasons given for young families being attracted to an area are always schools and recreation opportunities for their children. I understand the city has little control over the schools, but city rec programs are another matter and strictly its purview. I admit to having a personal axe to grind because I lost my youngest child and her 3 children from Villa Rica for exactly those 2 reasons. In fact, just traveled 100 miles today to play around the golf with my 2 grandchildren. I'd much prefer to play locally. Frankly, that's also a major reason I volunteered to be a member of the Villa Rica Recreation Advisory Committee. Not fulfilling the recreation or even advertising for the recreation department head, I think, gives a signal that recreation is not a priority of the city. Disappointing to say the least, like any first impression, a turnoff for young families looking for a place to relocate, or for that matter, current young families that are already here. And finally, regarding the latter, I seriously request that the visionary challenges that should be among the top responsibilities of you as our city officials, a decision be made on just what type of community we wish to target. We cannot be all things to all people. More specifically, towns identifying themselves as tourist attractions or senior citizens, or senior centers or young family centers or industrial are but 4 examples of the more easily made decisions on your part about zoning and other policies regarding the city. You can't please everyone. I was buoyed by when I was a member of the RSVP study program a few years ago that the city was going in the right direction insofar as taking a first step on the voyage.
I'll give you 30 more seconds. Go ahead.
I'm just wrapping up, but unfortunately, I see a little follow-up for that matter, or even reference to the recommendations of the study. I know we have our problems to deal with, but I really urge you as a council, okay, to talk not only about the little operations issue you deal with all the time, purchases and infrastructure, let's talk about the future. Let's talk to the public about the vision that we would like to have for our city of Villa Rica. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next up would be another old friend, John Hannaback. Please give us your address, and you have 3 minutes, sir. Good to see you back.
Glad to be here.
You seem to have a new mustache. I didn't see that in the paper.
The mask covers that up. So I've got a birthday coming up, and that may be the time when it disappears too. So
How old will you be, John?
really want to know?
I think I know, but sometimes I forget.
88.
88. So for those who don't know, John was also on the front page of the Villa Rican last week because he is our Korean War vet here, serving on the St. Paul, USS St. Paul.
Right.
Thank you for your service. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my reason for being here tonight is really primarily to give some thanks. I want to thank very much Mayor for your ordinance on the masks and the distancing. Appreciate that ordinance because I frankly felt a little uncomfortable at the work session when people were not wearing masks. And I want to thank Michael Young, my councilman, for complying with that. And I appreciate your comments tonight, but thank you for wearing the mask. I do appreciate that. Also want to thank Ken Denny, the author of the article that you referred to, Mr. Mayor, just for reminding us that no wars are forgotten. And I very much appreciate that. And lastly, I want to thank Chief Mansour and the Villa Rica Police Department. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your dedication. And thank you for the service to our community. And I salute you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, and I appreciate all those comments. I mentioned at our last meeting that I couldn't wait till we got back to having the public. You should. Would anybody else like to speak? Ms. Jody Mount, please state your name and address for the record.
Jody Mount, 214 Rockmart Road here in Villa Rica. And I'd like to thank the mayor for enforcing the smoking ordinance. I look forward to be able to go in somewhere and play pool. I can't go in there because it stinks. It smells horrible. I would love to play trivia, but there's no place that I can go because it smells horrible. So thank you for enforcing the law. And I also think that's going to make more respect for our other laws. Because if you don't, you be picky and choosy about, oh, I don't like this one, let's not enforce that. That creates disrespect for all our ordinances and stuff. So thank you. And I also want to piggyback on what Dennis said too. Yes, we are dealing a lot with this new COVID virus and stuff, but please, let's not forget our vision. Let's not forget our future. You know, I'm volunteering working on the pollinator garden over in Carrollton. I would love to be working on a pollinator garden here in Villa Rica on our own trail. You know, let's get things going, folks. Thank you.
Thursday night at La Fiesta in the Publix parking lot. Trivia. No smoking? No smoking.
Okay.
Johnny's on Monday night.
Y'all can write that down and put it on your Facebook so everybody knows where they can go for trivia. Okay, all right, let's, do we have anybody else would like to make any comments tonight? Oh my goodness. I did not recognize you at all.
Oh, that's right, I've curled my hair, ha-ha. I'm incognito here.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
And you got 3 minutes or less.
Okay, Prissy Sullivan, 207 North Avenue. I had two things. I also wanted to thank the mayor for enforcing the no smoking ordinance, especially walking downtown, waiting in lines to get in a store. And if any place thinks it might hurt their business, they might be surprised. It might help their business. Also, Jody, Johnny's Pizza on Monday night has trivia if they can ever get it started back. And I also wanted to thank Chief Mansour and the police department. COVID-19 hit before I could get over here and say thank you, but we had a break-in in our car one night around mid-March. The response was fantastic, although I did try to call the police department. They referred me to 911, who didn't have a clue where I lived. But anyway, the police got there. They caught the guy. They were professional. They were stern with him. I mean, nobody was hurt, and they recovered everything. And I did find out another car he'd broken into, but I have all their change. So anyway, thank you for the wonderful police department and the wonderful city government we have.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, anybody else like to give public comments tonight? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments. So the next item up on the agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda. So let me take a moment to call out all of the items that we placed on the consent agenda at the work session last Thursday. And then if there are any objections, we'll hear those, and if there are none, we will adopt the consent agenda. So the first item is culvert replacements, industrial park roads prior to paving. Second item is professional services agreement for Gold Dust Splash Pad. Third item is the work order with Brennan Jones to evaluate the sewer system along Anderson Road and the Cleghorn Lift Station. Number 4, pipe material for industrial park culvert replacements. Number 5, work order with Brennan Jones for Nally Road sewer review. Number 6, professional services with Falcon Design Consultants for oversight of construction projects. Number 7, Graddick Communications video stream. Number 8, bid award for construction of Highway 78 water main extension. Number 9, bid award for the construction of Edge Road water main extension. Number 10, price quotation on further engineering study of Punkintown Road speed limit reduction. Number 11, the purchase of one John Deere Gator Model TS. And number 12, Pine Mountain Gold Museum crossing arms. Are there any objections to those items? There are none. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda and a second. You got that? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Okay, so we have adopted the consent agenda. We had 3 other items, and we'll try to move through those very quickly because we just really had a minor change to the cover sheets for those. We'll get to them in a minute. Next item up is B, governing body, the approval of the May 26, 2020 meeting minutes. Council, you've reviewed those minutes. Do I hear an amendment or a motion?
I have detected an error in the minutes, so I would ask that we table that to the next meeting so we can correct those minutes.
All right, I have a motion to table those minutes to the next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table the meeting minutes of May 26, 2020 to the next meeting. All in favor? That is also unanimous. Okay, we will now move on to C, economic development. Wesley, are you here? Please come forward. And the first item will be the professional services for architectural design and documentation. Go ahead. And you can do a brief overview. We've already been through this through the work session, and we'll see if council is ready to move forward.
What we have here is a proposal to engage
You need-
architectural design services.
Yeah,
Excuse
there
me.
you go.
Sorry about that. I did that last time too. For several different projects that we're working on, have been in the pipeline out at Pine Mountain Gold Museum for some time. And we're at the point now where we're ready to actually begin to, the rubber meets the road in terms of design, so we can actually begin to accomplish these tasks. So we need to have approval for the design services in order for us to move forward. With these designs, I'll be able to bid out these projects, and then we can look forward to actually resolving some of these issues in the very near future.
Okay, that seems like a sufficient review. The more detailed information is available on the website. Council, do you have a motion?
I make a motion that the city execute the
Ms. Shirley has made a motion that we move that the city execute the attached proposal for professional architecture and design services for Pine Mountain Gold Museum projects not to exceed $30,225. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Go.
Yeah, just wanted to mention this very briefly, and I mentioned it at the work session, but I think it's important. With some of the cool things that we want to do over there, some citizens might say, well, why do we have the money to do what doesn't look like the needs necessarily? And it's really important to understand that that is the Douglas County side of the city, that there is Douglas County SPLOST money that has to be used according to what was approved ahead of time. And that's why those finances are available to do some of these things that frankly otherwise might have taken years. But that money is designated for certain things like parks, recreation, that sort of thing. And I just thought that that explanation was important, because people might say, how can we do that when we can't have a tractor that we said no to, and some other things like that. That's all.
Any other discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, Wesley, let's go to item number 2, web design and services.
To sum up, our website is basically under the umbrella of the city website, and because we have a unique operation, we sell a lot of tickets, we make a lot of reservations, we need something that is a little more robust and can speak back and forth with the ticketing software systems and our register, etc. We need to bring our website into the 21st century so that we can continue to generate revenue, but also it's visitor services, really. We want people to not be frustrated trying to get out there to see us or spend money with us or make a reservation or what have you.
Okay. Council, does anyone have a motion?
Yeah, let me read the motion. We move the city execute the attached proposal for professional services from Line Biscuit Creative for web design and services. Web design for Pine Mountain Gold Museum not to exceed $5,500.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Marchman. All in favor? Ms. McPherson, would you like to make a comment on that, a discussion?
No, I think we're good.
All right, it's unanimous. All right, let's move on to the third item, Wesley. Clover POS system.
This dovetails with what we're trying to do with the website. We have an older style push button register that belongs in the museum, not behind the register, behind the counter rather. And simply, we can't provide the necessary reports, information. We can't collect a lot of data that could be useful in marketing or offering different things, because it's kind of a dumb machine, for lack of a better word. In addition to it being, bringing us into the 21st century, there's going to be an immediate cost savings with this, and that's part of the package that was uploaded to you guys earlier. There'll be an immediate effect, not a major burden to the city in terms of making this change. This system will also dovetail neatly if other departments begin to upgrade into similar software. We should be able to become more of a network instead of machines that don't talk to each other.
All right. Thank you, Wesley. Council, does anyone have a motion?
I have a motion that we move that the city execute the attached proposal for the Clover system hardware, software, and professional services as provided by Omega BCS for Pine Mountain Gold Museum not to exceed $3,025.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Wesley.
Thank you.
So
and I don't know about trivia, but I would love to have your help with the pollinator garden at Pine Mountain Gold Museum.
She had mentioned that to me actually separately, and I offered to let her do my gardens at my house, but she didn't feel like that was civic duty. But I offered. Let me just, in case it seemed at all blasé with Councilwoman McPherson's comments about the Douglas County SPLOST, the reason these 3 items got put off until tonight was so that we could update the cover sheet to reflect that the money being spent on all 3 of these items comes from the Douglas County SPLOST. So I don't mean to be blasé about it. I just know that it's already on the cover sheet, and sometimes I take that for granted. So that's a significant piece of information for the public to know. Okay, thank you, Wesley. The next item up is going to be Human Resources, Ms. Rooks. Change in payroll provider.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we discussed on Thursday, I'm proposing a change to our payroll, applicant tracking, performance management, learning management, and payroll provider. Currently, we have two different providers for all of those things. We have NeoGov for our learning management and performance management, and then we have Thread for applicant tracking, payroll, and HR information systems, as well as benefits administration. We are proposing to change to Paycom for a cost of $57,000. I have provided you with copies of the evaluations, how they look in the system, also with the course catalog for the learning management system. Like I said, as we discussed, this is a totally integrated system. Each section of this system talks to the other one, where the systems we have right now do not. This will allow us to do clocking in from your phone, doing performance evaluations from it. You can do anything in the system from their mobile app. So it's going to be much more effective for our employees. It's going to be easier. Right now, Thread requires probably 10 minutes to log in if you've forgotten your password. So, and this is just 1 or 2 clicks. Let's see. So we are asking the council to approve changing from the 2 providers we have to 1.
Okay, and you did present this item in some detail Thursday at the work session. And I do think that going forward, we're going to want an integrated system. So I think that this is probably exactly what we want to do. But I'm not sure. We only got that information late today, and we had been looking for it since last Thursday. That doesn't mean we won't move forward with it, but I just want to note that maybe some of the council hasn't even been able to see it. With that, let me open this up for some discussion, and then we'll see where we're at.
My concern is kind of the same one I had Thursday, and so I'll probably ask Tom if he's looked at some of this, because now the first I've seen of this is now.
Correct.
And I hate to say it, but even with help.
I have actually expanded that when I copied it, so it was even smaller than that previously.
That's bad. There is some of it that's ineligible, but I couldn't have read it anyway. I saw some emails come in, I don't know, maybe an hour ago. I didn't get a chance to look at them. But I understand you said it's much easier to use. It all works together. I like that. I like anything that saves money that still does the job that we need. Mayor, you already expressed we don't want to pay the startup fee, so let's find something we're going to stick with so we don't keep paying startup fees in the beginning. Tom, your professional opinion on the personal evaluation part.
I was not part of the review panel that did this. I think this was Stephanie, Sarah, and Shannon. So those 3 are the ones that did the selection.
Any
That
other
was the
council
part, yeah, that
members
was
have
the
any other
part we
questions?
looked at.
Yeah, I think during the work session, we talked about we were going to save $1,400, but that's the savings after implementation are almost $7,000 a year.
Correct.
So, the benefit for this system is a lot more than what we discussed in the work session.
The benefits to the system, yes, they are.
Let me ask you a question. So sort of where we're at is that I think we all are going to agree that going to an integrated system is going to be the right answer. I think a question that we might have, and we had hoped that the city manager had been more involved, but a question we might have is, did you look at other providers? Was there other options considered?
There were.
Okay.
One of them was Paylocity, one was NeoGov, and the other one was Thread. So we had 3 different providers. Thread is one we're using now. We looked at NeoGov's total system. They wanted over $70,000 for their entire system.
Would it also be a fully integrated system?
It would be, yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Very cumbersome. NeoGov is just difficult to navigate. Paylocity of NeoGov, Thread, and there was one more.
I don't know if it's in this backup. Okay, but you answered my question, and we did have some discussion about that on Wednesday as well. I don't know that we could learn anything else by putting this off, and I think we're headed in this direction anyway, so I don't have any reason. Council, does anybody have a motion?
Mayor, if I
Yes,
may
sir.
ask,
Mr.
I was actually looking back at the work session agenda and the work session items, and we have now have in our system here, we have a actual agreement, and that was not included in the work session item. So this would
Wait
be
a
the
minute.
first time.
Are you, Stephanie, did you all add an item to the packet that was not there Thursday?
Is
It
that
should have
the,
been there Thursday.
That's the third attachment, pay.
No, Shannon sent it to you to add.
So you're saying that it was added originally?
I think he was there.
So you don't recall seeing it, Councilman?
No, this
And
is the
I don't
first time.
recall seeing that. That being the case, how urgent is it that you get this?
To get the discounts that we have negotiated, it is imperative that we do it.
At
Very
this
soon.
meeting, or can we do it?
This meeting would be, they'd have to reprice everything for the
I
next
don't
meeting.
recall seeing the agreement. Yes, ma'am. When did you attach that? Okay, then
But you had
items
it on
cannot be added
Thursday.
onto the packet if we're not notified that they're there. We have no way to review them. I don't see, unless someone wants to try to move forward with this tonight, I think you need to table it till the next meeting.
Let me, in Elisa's defense, I know you did send us some emails of things that were gonna be added. Is this one of them? 'Cause, yeah, I take in so much information sometimes I can't either. I'm like numerous emails, and so I can't state exactly when I saw it.
Okay, any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Make a motion we table till the August meeting.
Okay, I have a motion to table this item to the August council meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Discussion?
And I would say
Any-
the next council meeting, because we might end up with a call meeting in between, so.
Sure,
Yeah,
we may.
that's-
There's a chance. Okay,
point.
do you have some discussion?
So if it all gets repriced, could this all change what we're paying for something we really expect to approve? That's my concern. I want us to look at everything. I had a little concern about the evaluations because we've always looked at that a little more, but I'm willing to defer to the city manager on that. But I like the fact that y'all used a team. You had 3 different people working on it. I still kind of like the city manager that we hired looking at it. You know what I mean? Because it's really important. This is going to be, we've talked about how important proper evaluation system is for us. I am concerned about the tabling, if it's going to get all repriced, and that could be, a detriment to us, but
My
I
concern,
won't stop it if you feel strong enough.
Hang on just a second, Matt. I didn't hear you say that it's going to be repriced. You said that it would be ideal if we did it tonight.
It will be repriced.
Okay.
It will be repriced.
For sure.
Yes. It may be the same price, but they're going to have to go through all their approvals again. It took them over a week to get this last approval.
Council, I will defer to whatever you do, but I'm going to suggest that if we don't have the agreement in the packet, we cannot fully make a decision on this. So let me call this vote, and if it fails, we'll look at another one.
Did the city attorney look at the?
yeah, that was
I
my
have
question.
forwarded it to the city attorney. I have not heard anything from him.
Yeah, that was my concern too. It did legal review this, so.
Well, okay. All right. Mr. Montan, did you have any other comments?
No, I mean, that was it. I mean, that was my primary concern. Did legal review this? I mean, personally, looking at it, it's got a choice of venue clause that we have to bring any lawsuit in the state of Oklahoma. So I don't know if that's negotiable or not, but it's not something
Avery,
that I
have
would.
you reviewed this? Okay, well, that's concerning in and of itself.
So,
In defense of the attorneys. We have one
Usually-
that's ill. Thank you for being here.
Usually what
filling in.
David does and what we do on these agreements is we mark through the other state and put Georgia in there. We
But that
notify the
hasn't happened
vendor.
here.
We notify the vendor because we can't abide by any laws in another state. It's a Georgia law.
Okay,
So-
Tom, do you have any comments? Do you have anything to add? Okay. All right, so I have a motion to table and a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. We will table it to the next meeting in August.
Stephanie, would you send the agreement to Avery?
It's in the packet. Avery has the packet.
Okay.
Okay, all right, sorry about that. I thought we would close that out tonight, but when a significant piece of it gets added to the packet and we have no idea it's there, it's hard to move forward. Okay, the next item on the agenda is E, Finance. Miss Sarah Andrews. May 2020 financial update. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening. All right, this is our May 2020 update, as the mayor said. Just want to point out, I handed y'all the audit reports for 2019, so that's through September 30th of 2019. The auditor will be here at the next meeting to go over that, but if you want to look at that beforehand, and I believe we have our Finance Committee meeting July 29th, so we can talk about it then as well. All right. First up is our cash slide. This shows our cash balances at this date and point, which is May 31st of last year and May 31st of this year. That first line is our total cash in CD has grown from 14.7 million to 18.6 million. The next three lines, the general fund, the water sewer fund, and the sanitation fund, they are part of our pooled cash operating bank account, but the system tracks which fund they belong to. You can see the general fund has grown to 7.4 million. Water sewer fund has grown as well, and sanitation fund is no longer in negative. It is $12,000 positive. Those last three items are our SPLOST accounts. You can see those have grown as we have been collecting SPLOST money and haven't been spending it as much as we were last year. The next item is our building permits. This one, I'm just showing you the residential growth. These are new construction permits for houses in Villa Rica. Through the fiscal year, May of 2019, we had taken 160 permits, and through May of 2020, we have taken 178. And you can see the water and sewer taps are keeping in line with that. The next slide shows our water and sewer net income statement. Again, this is year-to-date through May 2019 and year-to-date through May 2020. The revenue shows after 3 rate increases. That miscellaneous revenue line item includes tap fees. So as we have brought in those building permits, they're also paying for water and sewer tap fees. So you can see how that's keeping up as well. One of the big things we've been working on in the last 3 years with our budgets is getting ready for the debt payment increase. You can see that down there where the yellow box points out the debt payment increase. We did take on a significant increase this year, but we were ready for it. And then you can see how much the net income has grown from last year to this year. We're at almost $1.4 million so far this fiscal year. Next is the sanitation fund. Again, on that cash slide, you saw that at this point last year we had negative cash. This year we have positive cash. And you can see last year we only had a net income of $6,000, where this year we're at $60,000. So we have finally made that fund to be self-sufficient. All right, so wanted to bring news about Lost and Splost. So this is our sales tax and our special local option sales tax. This is a comparison month to month. So this isn't year-to-date comparisons. This is March of 2019 compared to March of 2020 for both counties. In March, Carroll was down 4%, Douglas was down 10% compared to the prior March. April, Carroll was down 7, Douglas was down 12%, but in May, both counties saw improvement over even the last year. So year to date, Carroll County is looking like we'll probably hit our budget. Douglas is slightly under budget overall, but if we have some more good months, we may see that hit budget. Next is our self-funded insurance. So the first 12 to 15 months, we had savings of over $700,000, and we've remained pretty flat since then. But this fiscal year, we're starting to see some more savings. Just want to remind y'all that we only fund 90% of what we actually, what our maximum liability could be. So we are having savings below even that, and that is with, we changed the co-pays for the employees so that the employees actually have a richer benefit plan now. So with that, you can see now that the savings have grown to $840,000 since we've been on this self-funded plan. And moving on. So since I handed out the audit, I wanted to update y'all on our fund balance. The fund balance doesn't change every month. It's really just kind of as the audit is completed, we can see where we stand. So fund balance is basically your, this is the unrestricted portion of our fund balance. So that is basically the net income that has built up over the years, leaves us with kind of our savings. I think our policy states that we want to have 25%. So that's 25% of your expenses you want available in your fund balance in case of an emergency or if you have big capital projects that you want to invest in. However, we'd like to be closer to the 40%. Anyway, with this, I wanted to point out, because this was a big deal, in 2017, we had $5 million. Now, in 2018, we asked the council to switch to a different fiscal year end. We had a December 31 year end, but because of the way our revenue comes in with property taxes and things, we asked council to change it to an October to September fiscal year, knowing we would take a big hit in our fund balance, which we did. You can see in 2018, which was our 9-month fiscal year, we dropped down to $3.6 million. However, with 2019 being our first year on that new fiscal year, we have caught back up to the $5 million, 5.1 in fact. For water and sewer, we didn't take a hit for the short year like we did in general fund, but I just wanted to point out because it's very significant, and it's thanks to the mayor and the council for y'all making the hard decision to do rate increases over the years. In 2014, we had a $1.1 million fund balance, so that wasn't even 25%. And I believe the cash was negative at that point. So we had a negative cash, our fund balance was really low, but in 5 years we've grown it back to $5 million, or grown it to $5 million. I don't think it's ever been there. So thank you, council, for all your hard decisions with that. And then this is just a picture of the fund balance for our major funds. So this is the general fund. So this is where our taxes and things are. You can see how it has kind of decreased over the years with taking that big hit in 2018. Again, that was the fiscal year change. But in 2019, we made that back up. So water and sewer, like I pointed out, we have grown significantly. Like I said, council has made the hard decisions to raise rates, but has put us where we are now, which is $5 million in our fund balance. That prepares us for emergencies, prepares us for the debt payments, but it also allows us to pay for capital improvements that we significantly need. And lastly, I know it looks like a cool slide where I flipped the graph upside down. No, that's because it was negative. This is a sanitation fund. Unfortunately, has been negative for many years. 2019, it's a negative $9,000, but after a positive income year this year, we will actually have a positive fund balance at the end of this year. So kudos to the council and the mayor. Thank you all very much. Any questions for me?
All right, thank you. Let me just ask a question about the audit. Will
Yes.
we have a presentation from the auditors at the next council meeting? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Sarah? All right. I guess they have absorbed it and asked their questions outside of this meeting. Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Okay, next item up on the agenda is going to be Chris Montesinos, F1, Villa Rica zoning ordinance and official zoning map. Tonight we will have a presentation by Chris, and then we will move to a public hearing. Come on, Chris. Let's just go ahead and wait on that train.
Okay.
Just for a moment. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. In this section of the presentation, I just want to give you an update on where we are with respect to the adoption process. Of course, we've been through the ordinance process, and then we've gone on to the application of zoning onto specific parcels. And with that comes the objections to the changes of zoning. I've given you a handout here, and I've got some extra copies I'm going to leave on the table out front for anyone who's interested. It's kind of using an outline of how many parcels we're dealing with respect to initiating modifications to the zoning or the application of new zoning districts to existing properties. From that, we identify the number of properties that are being substantively affected, meaning they're going from a commercial to a residential or a industrial to residential or something along those lines. We flag those. Those we've identified. We sent them letters of intent to rezone. Those were sent certified. We've accounted for 100% of those in return. We received 27 objections, and that's not 27 individuals, but that's for 27 properties out of 6,684. So that's a very small margin. Of those 27, we were able to address 11 properties through the administrative modification process. That was presented at the last council work session. And then we had 2 of those objections that were withdrawn. So what we're at now is we have 10 properties, which I believe is represented by 7 property owners that are moving forward. Once the zoning ordinance and the zoning map are adopted, those will move forward to the Planning Commission for their actual appeal process, and then to the City Council for final decision. So just wanted to walk you through where we are in this stage of the process, and I'm here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Okay, and most of that you did present Thursday, and you also have a pretty detailed handout that you've given to us. So I didn't recall Thursday you saying that 2 of those appeals had been withdrawn. Okay,
That's right.
And now there are 7 property owners who have. Let me try to get this clear in my head. Okay, all right. Now I recall what we were doing here. All right, council, does anybody have any questions for Chris? Okay, we've talked about this for a long time. We've had a lot of information coming in on a regular basis that we probably review outside of these meetings. So I know that most council members have met with Chris individually. I know I've had a number of meetings with him, so it doesn't surprise me that we're sort of at a place where we don't have a lot of questions right now. So, Avery, with that, we want to move to the public hearing. Do we just open up the floor for that, for anyone right now? Speaking to you.
You can take comments from people that are opposed to the or in favor of the changes.
Okay. All right. So as I stated earlier tonight, we will not vote on adopting this tonight, but we did advertise for a public hearing. So with that, we are going to hold the public hearing, and I'm going to ask if anyone who would like to speak in favor or against this zoning come forward now. You may come to the podium here and remove your mask and speak. Thank you, Chris. I'll call you back up in a moment. Please state your name for the record.
Mayor, Council, my name's Robert Walker. I'm an attorney at Jenkins, Bowen, and Walker in Cartersville, Georgia. I am here on behalf of my clients, Morgan Satterfield Investments and Cooey and Morgan Investments, who own 4 separate tracts of property that are the southernmost tracts in the city of Villa Rica on Highway 61. So these are the southernmost tracts on Highway 61 in Villa Rica, and there are 2 on the east side of 61 and 2 on the west side.
Would you clarify for me which property? Who is the owner?
Cooey and Morgan Investments and Morgan Satterfield Investments are the 2 property owners.
Give me just a moment. Chris, will you tell me which of these parcels we're talking about? Because I don't see those names.
Yes, sir.
Is that what it is? I do see Morris Shackelford. Okay. All right. We just don't have it down that way. Sir, I want to know which one you were talking about.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Your Honor, we represent these folks. They had this property, and Joel Morris is here as well, and he is the broker and listing agent for my clients, and will be able to answer any property-specific questions that may exist. They bought this property and owned this property, had the property rezoned by the city back before the recession in 2008. The property was rezoned commercial, and now the property is being proposed to be rezoned to an agricultural use, and that's precisely what we have an issue with. We're not asking necessarily that we're not challenging the entire enactment of the zoning ordinance, but only as it's applied to our client's property. We would ask that a condition be made to any passage that would result in no change in the zoning being made to our clients. They've expended a substantial amount of money in reliance on the approval that the city gave, the rezoning that the city gave prior to 2008. Hundreds of thousands of dollars has been spent on that property. It has underground utilities. There's been paving done. There's sewer. There's a lift station that's been put in place for sewer. And so it would cause a substantial detriment to our client if this property were changed to an agricultural zoning use. Our clients also have, and there are a couple of things that I would like to put into the record of the property, or put into the record here. One is a letter that was sent by our office to Mr. Montesinos on February 21st of 2020. We have a copy of that I'd like to put in as part of the record. There's also a letter that was sent on June 10th of 2020 to Mr. Montesinos as well. Both of those raise our objections, both constitutional and otherwise, to this proposed rezoning. And so we'd like to include those. I also have a copy of 2 contracts for the sale of the property that we would like to consider as what we would like to put into the record as well. Mr. Morris can talk more about those. They are redacted for the purchase price. That has been redacted out of them, but they are purchase and sell agreements that my client currently has on these 2 properties that they are going to be bought at a substantial price based on the current zoning that is in effect. We believe that if this property is rezoned pursuant to the language in the contract, that the purchaser has the right to declare the purchase and option null and void, and those contracts will be lost at a substantial detriment to our client, millions of dollars. We've also, as part of those earlier letters that were submitted, we submitted a statement from a certified real estate appraiser that said that should this property be rezoned in the manner that's been proposed, that the value would be reduced from over $100,000 per acre to less than $5,000 per acre. And so again, we believe that it would be a substantial detriment. We believe our client has vested rights to use the property pursuant to the zoning that was granted by the council previously, and they have suspended substantial amounts of money, as mentioned earlier, in reliance on that. We would also like to point out that what we're asking for is really not for the council to give our clients anything. It's rather for them not to take away what has previously been given. And so, again, the other thing that I would like to point out is that as we read the ordinance, and I also have a copy of this as well, the future land use map, as we read the proposed rezoning, we believe that it is inconsistent with the future land use map that the city has. And so these properties are shown on the future land use map.
Sir, could you get a little closer to the...
Yeah, these properties are shown on the future land use map to be, on the western side of 61 is shown to be industrial on the future land use map. And on the eastern side of 61 is shown to be suburban village. We believe the mixed-use commercial development that our clients are proposing to do on this property is consistent with that suburban village character, and is actually less intensive than the industrial use that's shown on the future land use map. And so rezoning the property to ag, we believe, would be inconsistent, again, not just with our vested rights and the state and federal constitutions, but also the city's own future land use map. So we would ask, again, these two properties be exempted from this. And I would point out that we acknowledge that whatever our clients propose to do on that property will be submitted to the city through site plans, and the city will have an opportunity to review that and make sure that it is consistent with the current existing ordinances of the city. And in fact, Mr. Morris tells me that the clients are close. We're waiting on engineers to finish those site plans up, and we expect to have them within the next couple of weeks. And at that point, they would be submitted to the city, and again, the city would have an opportunity to make sure that the property is consistent with all the now existing ordinances that are in place.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So let me just clarify a couple of things. This property was rezoned in 2008. This is 2020. And these vested rights, this contract that you have is dated when?
This contract is dated, I will tell you exactly. It is dated March of 2020.
Okay, council, do you have any questions for this gentleman? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Young.
When this goes to planning and zoning, I would like to make sure that we submit to planning and zoning all of these infrastructure improvements so they know the extent of what you're claiming, so that they make a fair judgment.
Okay. And again, Mr. Morris can talk to you perhaps in a little more detail about what those improvements are. Okay. And he may be able to answer any specific questions that you or any members may have.
Mr. Montahan?
Yeah, I just have a question about the alleged improvements at the property, considering the sewer, the lift station, underground utilities, and so forth. But at the same time, you've also stated that you'll be going back through plan review. So were those improvements done under a previous land disturbance application, or why were those improvements done prior to going to civil plan review now?
Yes, it's my understanding that they were done previously, that the property, there was a planned development on the property that did not go forward because of the recession. And so those were previously done in connection with that. This is a new site plan, but would obviously use and make use of the pre-existing improvements that are out there on the property now.
And did the previously approved land disturbance permit or application expire, or why not just continue under the existing one?
Well, that's a good question. We may have the ability to do that. We believe we do have vested rights and that we have the ability to proceed under those rights regardless of, quite frankly, of what the city were to do here. But again, we are trying, and our concern is that if this matter, I realize the matter is not going to be voted on today, but our concern is that under the current state of Georgia law, that if and when this were voted on, if it were rezoned pursuant to this ordinance, and the rezoning map was adopted making those changes, that we would potentially have to file a suit against the city to protect our clients' rights to challenge that decision. I know there's been mention of some administrative process of appeal that may be able to take place, but this is a questionable, this falls within a gray area of whether or not this is a legislative or quasi-judicial type decision that would require a challenge, or else you'd lose that right. And that's, quite frankly, the last thing on the planet that we want to do is have to file a lawsuit. But there is, quite frankly, millions of dollars on the line, and we will have to protect our clients' rights, and they'll proceed in the fashion that they deem appropriate. But we're just asking that these properties, we think these properties are unique by virtue of the improvements that have been made and the information that we've submitted. And so we would ask that these properties simply be omitted from this ordinance if and when it is voted on, and allowed to proceed under the current zoning.
All right, sir, hang on a second. You talk pretty low anyway, and you're not really at the microphone, and this train is going to drown you out. Give it just a moment.
All right.
It's probably an Amtrak. It moved kind of quick. Let me just say a couple things. Council, does anybody have any additional questions for the applicant's representative? Okay. So, Chris, would you come up? Thank you, sir. I may not have a question for you. I just want to ask a couple of questions to Chris.
And who may I give these documents?
Yes, sir. I was going to ask you anything that you wanted to submit for the record. Please hand it to the clerk. Okay. Chris, under the current zoning, not the proposed zoning, from the time that a zoning is granted, what period of time is that initially granted for?
For 1 year.
For 1 year. So this was granted in 2008.
Correct.
And our zoning, my understanding is, and I'm used to David being here, so I'm going to try to lean on you, but if you're not comfortable, just say, hey, we'll wait for a legal opinion, or we'll poke at Avery and see if he can do it. But the way it's currently written, it is such that the council may revert that zoning after 1 year, correct? If we haven't met certain. Yes. So I would think anytime after 12 years, we probably would be on pretty safe ground there.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Avery, have you reviewed our zoning ordinance?
Not for that particular purpose, no.
Okay,
but,
very good.
I believe
That's
in
fine.
my conversations with David, that is correct.
I only bring that up because you have been involved in an administrative review process, and I would assume that the claims that were made tonight would have been considered as part of that administrative review.
Correct.
And I guess that LDP would have expired after a year. Is that correct? All right. Thank you, Bobby. Okay. Are there anyone else here who would like to speak for or against this rezoning map? Yes, sir, Joel. Please state your name and address.
Joel Morris. Joel Morris. I live on Flat Rock Road here in Villa Rica. Like Mr. Walker said, I'm the broker for the property in question that we're talking about. Just to add to your comment, I understand about the 1 year expiration of the zoning. I will ask this: if that were the case and that zoning was going to be brought back to ag at that point, the people that bought the property have been paying taxes on it as a commercial piece of property. So to just say, well, it reverted back to ag anyway, I think that would not be correct. I'd also like to ask Mr. Montesinos, the fact that he said there were 6,000 properties.
Yes, sir. The total is in the city of Villa Rica is 6,684.
And that would be all commercial properties that are going to be.
No, sir. That's all parcels in the entire city. I'm sorry, I'm answering for you. that correct, Chris? That's all parcels in the city of Villa Rica.
So I would ask what the total of just commercial properties that are changing zoning versus, obviously the ordinance is going to affect every property in the city limits. It's not going to rezone every commercial property in the city limits. So I think that's where our argument is going to kind of end up there. So.
Okay, fair enough. Does anyone have any questions for Joel? Okay, Chris, would you come back up? Okay.
1 second. So I was also going to say the improvements that have been made to the property are significant. Mr. Barber and I have had a meeting about it. Some of this will actually help you guys out with some of your infrastructure work. I know there's some problems with some sewer capabilities or capacity on that side of I-20. We feel like this could possibly help out with that. The lift station was put in there with the plan. There definitely is a bore under the highway. So it is a very unique piece of property in the fact that it has been highly developed. You can't dispute that. You can go by and ride by and see that. I mean, there's curb, gutter, there's a paved street, there's underground.
Just for reference, this is the property, well, at least one side of the 61 is where they hold the rodeo.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
That's right.
And there is a road that went back there because
That's right.
at one time they were going to finish the subdivision.
There's detention ponds, there's underground utilities, street lights, and the proposed development is definitely going to be something I think the city's going to like to see. It's a mixed-use style development. It does have a commercial component to it that will definitely affect the contract.
And that's what the contract reflects, or
right.
That's what you know to
That,
be
well, that's
the
what
intent
the
of this
that
contract.
is what the site plan that we're trying to get put together currently is going to reflect.
Well, one thing we know for sure is we're not going to vote on this tonight. So if the attorney is correct and you have a site plan ready within the next 3 weeks or something along those lines, that'll be something I'm sure that Chris will be able to take a look at, and Tom for an administrative review. But at this time, we can only go by what's been recommended to us, so we'll continue on that path. Does anybody have any questions for Joel? All right, thank you, Joel. All right, anybody else like to speak for or against this zoning map tonight? Okay, seeing no one else, I will close the public hearing portion, and this will revert back to staff. Does anyone, any council members have any questions for staff? Any member of staff? We also have our city engineer in the room and the city manager. Council members? Okay.
I was a little curious on this property he was talking about. It's going to revert back to agricultural. Are they going to reapply for zoning change on it? Is that what was intended?
Well, let me, just for some point of clarity, I'll let you understand why it is that this did not pass the administrative adjustment portion and went to the recommendation to go to Planning Commission. The comprehensive plan identifies, as this gentleman's pointed out, that the eastern side of the two properties is zoned suburban village. General commercial is not a recommended zoning district for suburban village. The equivalent of the new zoning is C2, which would also not be consistent with the comprehensive plan. As they also mentioned, the properties on the western side are indicated as industrial properties in the comp plan. And again, GC or C2 are not recommended zoning districts for those. That said, that was one of the criteria that we passed it on as a threshold. Number two, the contracts that they were talking about were never included in the original appeal. And when it was brought to my attention that there was contracts out there, I asked the attorney over 2 weeks ago if they would email those to me. I had someone actually call me the other day to say, hey, these are under contract. And I said, great, give me the contracts so we can include them in the packets. So that wasn't done. The references to the infrastructure with the lift stations that are actually incomplete, and the other investments to the property, which were actually done under the previous LDP by the prior owner, was not done by this current applicant. So I'm not discounting all those things, but those are just considerations which made it where I was not comfortable making a recommendation to this body or to the planning commission that this should be prescribed ahead of time. It needs to go through the process, through due process. We're meeting every obligation under the current Unified Development Code as far as zoning, the authority of zoning powers, the abandonment of development with respect to the lack of follow through on permits, and the rights that the city council has to review and change or revert the zoning. As well, looking at the bigger picture, this is a citywide zoning effort. This isn't just these 5 properties. There are currently in the appeal process 3 other appealers who are going from general commercial to another zoning district. So this is not particular to their situation. This was just that they did not meet those basic thresholds that gave me the ability to recommend to this body that we make a change in advance of the adoption. So this then is going to the planning commission upon adoption, and they will have the due process and the right and the ability to express what they've tried to articulate tonight in advance of that process, but that is how the process is currently laid out.
Let me ask you a question. Is the administrative review process closed?
No.
Okay.
It's not closed until the
Adoption?
ordinance is adopted.
Okay.
Correct.
So they could still continue to submit now that they have whatever they have at this point. I heard the contract and some of
Yes.
You could still review some of that at this point?
That's correct.
Okay.
But that still doesn't change the fact that it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Not
So
suggesting that
therefore,
it will. I just want to know if they can continue through the administrative process.
yes, they can.
Okay, and if it still doesn't meet, then we'll continue on with what we laid out, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Danny. Anybody else have any? Yes, sir, mop to hand.
Chris, maybe this is a Chris and Bobby or Chris or Bobby question. How much of the infrastructure that's already been installed, I guess, do we have any indication on whether the infrastructure that's installed out there now is sufficient to meet current city code and would have to be redone anyway to be upgraded to current city code? Do we have any estimation to that whatsoever?
Once the land disturbance permit was abandoned back in the day, we've had several environmental laws and rules changed since then. Once the project is picked back up to move forward, they'll have to meet all new regulations as they relate to that development. That's detention, water quality, channel protection, buffers, et cetera, all of that.
And considering it's been 12 years since, or 10 years at least, since the LTP, I presume.
I have no
was issued.
records where that infrastructure was ever inspected by city staff.
Okay.
And of course that, it can be, all the sewers can be televised, cleaned, inspected that way. We've got another residential development right now that's in the process of cleaning up a bunch of stuff. But yes, all the new requirements as of today will have to be met.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Council, anybody else have any questions? Okay, since we have had the public hearing, we have closed that, and we have completed the discussion here. We are not going to be taking action on this tonight anyway, so we will move on, and I think that's going to be the end of our night, except the star of the show. City manager has a city manager's report. It's always the highlight of the reviews I get. Go ahead.
A sad commentary on the rest of the meeting. All right. If you have not been to Gold Dust Park recently, the playground equipment has been erected, mulch has been placed, and last week, I think Wednesday, we installed some ridiculous amount of sod, maybe 26 pallets or something similar. We're hoping to have the playground open next Monday, so if you have not been out there to take a look, it's really attractive. We have tried to keep you abreast of the progress being made by Pond, who is the contractor doing the transportation study. As you can imagine, the virus has sort of blown the public input part of their process to smithereens. but we're trying to slowly get back into a position where we can have public meetings and stakeholder meetings and satisfy that part of what they would normally do. So we'll keep you abreast of those, because I'd like for all of you to attend those as they come up. I'm being told by email from Georgia DOT that the Liberty Road Bridge was scheduled to be completed on time, which would be tomorrow. So maybe Thursday we can cross the bridge again. We'll see.
They've paved both sides of it.
Right. I saw that they had redone the approaches.
My reading was that it will be open tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you say that it's going to be open tomorrow.
Well, I've already said it in the paper, so
all right,
may as well say it here.
All right.
Go ahead.
One of the bids that you approved tonight was for the replacement of all 6 of the stormwater culverts in our industrial park. If you wondered how that got to the top of the list, we have had we're making an effort to implement a philosophy which says that people that resurface roads when there's work to be done underneath them, but don't do that work and resurface first, are dumb. And so we are proactively going to replace the old metal pipes that are under the road in the park in 6 different places with concrete pipe, so that when Bobby's RFP comes back on the paving for this year, we'll be able to go in there and actually mill and top coat a significant part of the industrial park, and then know that we've got, I don't know how many years out of this pipe, 50 years, 20 years, a lot of years. Anyway, we're just going to try not to be dumb. That RFP for paving has been circulated and has a July 31 closing date, which means it won't be on the August agenda, but will be on the September agenda, I think, unless Bobby stands on his head or something, because I think the agenda closing date's like the 30th or something similar. Janet and I have continued to meet with Andy Camp. If you can imagine the frustration that Pond has with doing stakeholder meetings, you can imagine what doing economic development's like right now, especially on the retail, restaurant, downtown shop kind of scale. But what Andy and his folks are doing is to try to take advantage of any virtual Zoom-based retail conference to get in front of developers and in front of site locators. We've actually made a little progress with that. So we'll keep you abreast if any of that becomes real, but we are still working on that. I think we've mentioned before that the Carroll County SPLOST will not go to referendum whenever it was originally scheduled, but is now next March. So hopefully that's a good thing. Staff has recently met with the guys from Arbor Valley, who is the developer that will be building the apartments on Anderson Road. They are planning a groundbreaking right now of March of 20. I think that's pretty cool. That will be the first project in the TAD area.
Wait a minute. Miss March.
March of 21.
Okay. I knew it was 21.
We have one person paying attention in the front.
I knew it was 21, so I was just letting it go.
I have March of 20 here on my notes, but yeah, March of 21.
She said, haven't we passed that?
All right. Janet and I have also met with representatives of T2 Solutions, who we've been talking to wrap our heads around what we could do to improve the parking situation downtown. The issue that we have is we have 2 really significant sources of employment downtown that are offices that gobble a whole lot of the prime parking space downtown in the two main blocks on the south side of the railroad. So we're looking at a system that would allow us to monitor the spaces with this approach. You'd have a meter, an automated meter that about every 10 or 12 spaces, and you would, when you approach the meter, the first hour is free, right? So there'd be no disruption to people that are, you know, just going in to eat lunch and that kind of thing. But you'd have to pay for time beyond that. It's based on your car tag, so there's no numbering of the spaces. You put your tag in, you pay for however long you want to be there. If it's just an hour, it doesn't cost you anything, but it keeps up with the tag, so you can only use it once a day. So you only get the free hour once a day. And what we're trying to do is determine where we can move all the employees so that we have that 2-block area open. Now, what I envision is going to happen is if we do that on the 2 front blocks, we're going to just create a problem in the back, right? Because if I'm an employee of those companies, if I can't park on 78, I'm going to park on Wilson, right? So we got to do it on Wilson too. Well, if we do that, then we're going to push them east, and they're going to park in the public parking lot at the corner of Carroll and Wilson, and they're going to park in the front, right, where Edward Jones and Moral Norman and all that is. So we got to put, you know what I'm saying? So it's sort of like we got to keep doing it till we get to an area, where we're comfortable with people parking, which for us would be here, right? 61 on this side of the railroad is where we would like to have people park. We may also have a problem at the drugstore, right? Because you got a pretty nice lot there beside Wick's Tavern, so we may have to do something down there too. But anyway, so we're chasing that down. It may not come to anything, but we're trying to figure it out because we're choking our restaurants, some of the downtown retail establishments, so we're working on that. We've had an employee luncheon since we met last. It was moderately successful. I thought it was well attended, but the way we did the food was still a struggle. Just delivering enough meals fast enough has been a challenge in those, and so we're still talking about how to do that better. Bobby and I have met with Pond one time to look at sort of a draft of the transportation stuff. I liked some of it. I didn't like some of it. We told them what we didn't like. They went back. They're working on it. Several of us went on a tour. Since we met last, we went to Hateful to take a look at their downtown. They have adopted a brand, I don't know, Chris is gone. I don't remember the name, but they basically have become like an art downtown. So they've just muraled every vertical space of their downtown. There are paintings everywhere on the walls of buildings. So we got to see that, took a lot of photos, got some good ideas, got to meet with their staff. One of the things that they did, that if you've not been to Hateful, it has a downtown bisected by a railroad. They received a huge amount of money in a federal earmark, I guess 2 administrations ago, and they fenced their railroad from, if you know Hateful runs basically from in between 75 and 85, right, below the split, right? So Central Avenue runs east and west, the railroad runs east and west, and they fenced their railroad from the Ford plant west to Metropolitan, which is their main drag going north and south, with a black wrought iron fence on both sides. It is so cool. I don't know how we would ever get that money, but that with silent crossings, I mean, It was thought provoking.
Did you take any pictures? Good.
Yeah,
did.
it was thought provoking. I had never seen I don't think I've ever seen a downtown with a railroad that was fenced. If I have, where's Janet? Have you ever seen one?
Are they the one that in a picture had an approach with a pedestrian crossing over it? I was trying to remember because I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris took some
Very
pictures.
austere. It's just a concrete stairway with a crossing and a concrete stairway. I mean, it's not attractive at all, but functional. All right. We didn't have a lot of public stuff going up. Concerts, were gone, but we did have a leadership luncheon here, Zoom. Mike Dugan spoke. We've had a bunch of rallies since we met last time. Some of them you've attended. We received our $10,000 safety grant from GERMA recently. So if you're familiar with that, that's, I think, rolls around once a year, which is amazing since we've not been their best customer in recent memory. We're still working with the guys on the water treatment plant, the raw water source. We're working on that still. You've approved a couple of water line extensions, which we appreciate. Edge Road, Pete, would that take us 2 years? So all that engineering took 2 years, easement acquisition and all that. But that's a fire protection project, you remember? We're going to get a big pipe on Edge Road. It'll help Mr. Carter water his yard. And then the 78 project, right, from Dairy Queen down to the old Rite Aid, which is Family or Dollar something or whatever it is. Going to put in an 8-inch line on that north side. We're working with a guy that y'all approved who is helping us with easements. It's exactly what we thought it was going to be like, but we're making progress, so we're actually getting easements from people. So we think we'll have that ready when we get on the contract side on the installation ready. We hadn't talked about Water First in a while. So another victim of the virus is the Water First application. If we're awarded this designation, it saves us 1% on GFA loans. And considering that GFA loans are like, 1.9% to begin with, 1% is a lot. So that gets us, almost free money. We're going to make that presentation next Tuesday. So we've rescheduled for March. And we're going to present to representatives of other cities that have Water First designation and try to sell them on why we're wonderful and why they should give it to us. Carroll County Schools has announced that they're going to open on Monday, August the 10th. I understand that Douglas is doing the same, right? August 10th. And so that may help us make some other decisions that we have been talking about. And at least in the case of Carroll, they're giving parents a choice, traditional versus digital, virtual, whatever they call that.
They're doing the same in Douglas.
Okay, so all that's going on. It's an interesting time. If you've not been coming into City Hall, it seems like every week this gets weirder and weirder. I don't know. It's we got the mask now, which makes it different, but we've turned the place upside down and painted and carpeted it, and everybody's gotten back. We sort of have acclimated to that. We got this room done. One opportunity that we have now, depending on what we do with recreation, is we could redo some recreational space for the same reason, right? It's sort of a once in a lifetime period of inactivity where we could do some things that won't be disruptive because maybe there's nothing to disrupt. Sad, but take advantage of the opportunity. So any questions on any of that? That's a lot of stuff.
Road crew? What's the latest with our road crew? When do we see them coming back?
They came back this morning.
Okay.
We had somebody come into work, felt bad, left Monday at lunchtime, tested positive. We sent everybody home. They stayed out for 5.5 work days. Came back this morning, so they skipped a whole week of most of Monday and then a whole week. So they missed yesterday. So they did the Monday route today, and they'll try to catch up. But since then, the partner of the guy who got sick and tested positive has also gotten sick and tested positive. So that close proximity in the truck got him, right? They worked together. So as far as I know, nobody else has gotten ill, right? So we're hoping that the other 8 or so are all going to remain healthy, but they've only had, it's only been like 8 days since potential exposure. So I guess there is still, depending on whether it's 5 to 7 day incubation or 14-day incubation. I guess
Carter knows what it is. He said it's 5.5 to 11 days. That's what he's told us.
We were quarantined for a while.
We were.
Anyway, so we're glad to have them back.
So you haven't tested the rest of the crew?
The crew went to 2 locations. Where's Stephanie? They were all tested, but nobody's got results, right? Oh, yeah, only the second person that said, yeah, so we don't have results yet.
You talk so soft, even when you pulled the mask down, we still couldn't hear you. In fact, I don't think it was any louder at all. Okay, go ahead. Are you finished?
Taking questions.
All right, any more questions for Tom? Okay, Tom mentioned the safety grant, and I asked the chief if he would say a few words about the safety grant. So would you come up and talk about that just for a minute?
The safety grant is the GERMA grant that we apply for every year. We get equipment out of it and get different things. Our Power DMS system is what we use in the city or in the PD for training and things like that. So we pay for that out of it every year. The total of the grant is $10,000, and we've gotten it for several years now. And we have to do specific things to do that, including having a safety officer, which is Sergeant Carroll. And so we get the Power DMS system out of it this year. Also some traffic barricades and cones that we can use along with the street department. And then we're also getting a thermal night sight. So like if somebody runs from us on foot at night or something, we can use that to help try to locate those people.
Okay, well, that's good. I appreciate getting that every year. Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, with that, we're getting right down to the end. Tom, will we have a ribbon cutting for the Gold Dust Park?
I'm not planning to unless you want to.
All right, we'll talk about it separate. I knew that had come up, but I didn't know if we'd ever made a decision on it. Okay, council, does anybody have anything else for tonight? Because we are close to adjournment. Avery, do you have anything?
Nothing for me.
Okay, Tom, nothing else? All right, with that, I will ask everyone up here and those without your mask on, put your mask on to leave the building, and I will adjourn the meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
Oh.
Yes, this is an official meeting. You get used to those work sessions, don't you?
I do. Okay, so I've got a motion to adjourn, and I have a second. All in favor? All right, it's unanimous, and the chief even voted.